Okay, go ahead, introduce yourself, what you do, who you help.
Hi, Lori. Thanks for having me today. I'm Alisa St. George. I live here in Southern Connecticut, and I help female entrepreneurs to trust their bodies again, that they're designed to heal themselves so they can live their best lives for themselves, the loved ones that they have, the others that they support.
So, how did you get into doing that?
That's kind of a long story, but I'll make it short. I had an awakening during COVID, learned about holistic modalities, felt stuck in my career after 15 years and decided to completely take a leap of faith and step out into what I considered the unknown. And then this opportunity presented itself. Once I closed that door, this door opened for me.
Yeah, so that's kind of the short of it. I'm just curious what your previous career was.
Yeah, I worked for the state of Connecticut as an executive administrative assistant in higher education. So I made all the magic happen behind the scenes. I was adept at problem solving, wore many hats, and I really enjoyed the work that I did, but I reached a point where I felt like I had saturated the growth that I could do there. So I decided to go out on my own.
All right. So, have you invested in networking groups like time, money?
All of it. Yeah. I started off when I transitioned to this position, I've never done sales in my life. I didn't really consider it a sales job or occupation, if you will, because I was just sharing an experience that happened to me. But I learned kind of quickly that that could come across in a way that I wasn't intending. And so I learned really early on, it was not about transactions, but it was about relationships. People needed to know, like, and trust me. People needed to see how I worked with others. People needed to see me repeatedly show up so that they could confirm that I was in this for the long haul. And if they worked with me, that I would be there for them. So I started off fairly simply, right? Tried to find the free networking groups, started to open myself up locally, right? Kind of start small and free where it makes sense until you kind of feel out this networking world and figure it out. Um, One of the small investments I made after that was my local chamber of commerce. Really reasonable cost to belong, but you become part of the community. You can show up and serve there. You can meet people who are of all walks of life, all the business owners, people in the community. And so just the more I was around, the more people got to know me. And I'm really proud to say last night I received an award there at the Chamber of Commerce. But that was kind of the next step of networking. And then from small and local and free to small and local and reasonable investment, I moved into online space. So many times that can be free. So again, that makes sense to start with free networking where you can feel out a group, kind of get the vibe, depending on your demographic or your ideal client, right? You want to kind of be positioning yourself with people who can appropriately refer with you, collaborate with you, because it's really not about making the sale in networking. It's about developing those relationships where there's win-win for everybody involved.
Sounds like you went on quite a journey. Did you invest in any online groups?
Yeah, I have invested in a couple of different um, places that make sense for me. So it'll be different for everyone, of course. I
Mhm.
belong to a biohacking community, and there's a directory, there's support in that. There's a local in-person and online holistic network of practitioners, which align well with people I collaborate with. And then I recently joined a paid group in Canada, actually, with a group of like-minded holistic practitioners. Some are positioned over there in the Calgary area. Many are positioned around the country. And then I often get referred to other groups through people. So sometimes networking means I like what you do, but I'm not going to be a client right now. I don't necessarily have anybody to refer to you, but I can offer resources. And these are some of the other networking groups that I go to. So I like to swap those with people because there are so many different groups out there. And it's a trial and error thing. Like we said, you kind of pop in, see how it works, see if you align. And, it's easy, it's great. There's always something to learn, and it's very low risk aside from taking that step out of your comfort zone if it's difficult for you to kind of meet new people, but it's a great skill to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love how you talked about all the different ways that you networked and how it's also changed over time for you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's like anything else. You find what's working and you want to optimize your time, your investment, your money, all of your commitments, right? Our energy. We have to align it with what's best serving us and where we're getting the most result for our investment, right? Whether it's money or time or energy. And that just, it takes time to figure that out. I mean, it just is a normal evolution process. And even as my business grows, I find myself aligning with potentially more impactful people that have maybe a global reach as opposed to more local. So that evolves as well.
Yeah, exactly. Would you say you're more introverted or extroverted, and how does that affect the way that you network?
It's interesting because I've always considered myself an introvert, and I believe I am an introvert in that too much external stimulation where I'm not in control of it is exhausting for me. So case in point, last night, the Chamber of Commerce, hundreds of people, lots of talking, tons of conversations, music, food. That's a lot for me. I prefer a closer knit group, one-on-one or two or three people. But I have found that I do get energized when I'm excited about attending that type of an event to educate a group of people and kind of share what I do in small spurts, right? So we have the capacity to do either. We definitely want to honor what our comfort, where we work best. I shouldn't say our comfort. We want to step out of our comfort zone, but we want to work where we're going to be optimally efficient for sure. But it's good to stretch that once in a while and see what the other side feels like, right? It's because I find that they call it situational extroverts do very well when they have the particular situation that is making it work for them.
Yeah,
Yep.
definitely. So it sounds like you do both, but you prefer the small group and one.
Yeah, I really offer personalized service. Um, because health is very unique. Everyone is different. Everyone has different goals, different investments and commitments to their health. And so I meet people where they are. There's no um, judgment. It makes sense to start where you are and help you specifically. Yes, there's going to be overall general recommendations that I make, but I want each person to feel heard. So I try to personalize as much as possible, and knowing that that's how I feel cared for helps me to, care for others that way.
Would you say getting comfortable being uncomfortable is part of the entrepreneur skill set?
100%. Yeah, of course. We can only grow when we're uncomfortable. And sometimes it takes looking back at situations to see how we were sometimes pushed off the cliff by others. I'm sure it's happened to all of us. And we curse them. And then down the road, we recognize that maybe that transition and that growth, maybe that wouldn't have happened if the situation had been different and we had been allowed to stay in that comfort zone. I know that's true for me. Um, I don't think anyone loves change, but when we control the change, it's a little bit safer. So I like to be the change maker. That way I'm taking the leap. It's my decision. and I'm somewhat in control of the kind of environment in which I do it, if that makes sense. Um, so it's like imperative that we change and that we grow and we step out of that comfort zone, but we can do it in a way that feels better. And so I like encourage people to kind of see what that feels like for you. How is it feel safer, but you still are going to take that step, even regardless of the anxiety or the fear that you have.
Yeah, and I like that you mentioned the deciding to do it versus being pushed to do it, and how that, even though you're still getting out of your comfort zone, how that's easier.
Absolutely. Yeah. Anytime we have a choice, we're empowering ourselves. So we have a lot of choices that we don't necessarily recognize all the time. So I encourage people to take a look and see what is your choice in this situation. You can't control the other person, or you can't control some external circumstances, but what can you control and take action on that? So
Exactly.
yeah,
Now, do you use DMs on Facebook?
I do. I like to connect with people on Facebook. If I have encountered them in a group networking, even if I haven't had a chance to personally talk with them. But the thing I do, if I friend somebody, I always send a voice memo instead of just a DM in text writing. Because I like people to hear my voice, my intention, my heart, that I'm looking to connect. I want to learn more about them. And I'd like to share more about what I do. And if there's any potential for collaboration, sometimes it's just like, wow, I like your energy. I just want to kind of follow your page because it makes me feel good, and that's okay too. But I like again, I'm very personalized in my outreach. I think the relationship building is super important, and people need to feel like safe around you and that they can trust your intentions.
What about accepting friend requests? Do you find you're declining a lot, or
I always look at the profile, right? I get a lot of very handsome single older men who are, engineers,
army?
surgeons, all kinds of things.
Yeah.
So I take a good look at the profile, see the pictures, you know, those free stock photos. That's definitely a red flag. Um, and I discern. Usually it's very obvious. There's not many that are kind of questionable. It's usually either really obvious that it's a fake account or that it's a real account. So again, even when I accept a friend request, I ask what inspired you to reach out to me? I'm happy to connect. I'd like to learn more about you, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Do you have a lot of DMs where they're just going right in there and trying to sell you something right off the bat?
Not really, because I think when I accept a friend request or when I present a friend request, I always do that immediate voice memo telling people what my intention is. And so I think it may cut them off at the pass if their intention is to just sell me. I have received some unsolicited, and I like to respond. I don't like to ghost people because I give people the benefit of the doubt. In the beginning of my journey, I'm sure I sounded salesy. I was trying to figure it out. I had my goals, and now I'm growing and learning and maturing, moving away from like the fear into the abundance that there's so many people that want and need this technology, that it's okay if somebody's not interested and not ready. We're all on a different path. And so I will just politely decline and never ghost people. I don't usually explain why. And I find like when I show respect to other people, they're respectful back. So
Yeah, I think that's amazing to talk about your DM strategy like that. And I'm glad you explained it so well, because I know a lot of people could use with upgrading what they're currently doing in those DMs.
sure. Yeah, it's tempting to just do like a blast, right? Because we have limited time, and I understand that people are trying to reach as many people as they can. Often it's said like it's a numbers game, and while that might be true, we're we're not numbers, right? We're people. So I try to balance that.
Um, How do you set time boundaries so you can allocate the right amount of time for networking and still have time for family and other things in your business?
Yeah. I struggle with that. I'm super driven. My husband is self-employed, so he's also very busy in his work. Our kids are grown, so we don't have a lot of other obligations. And I would say that sometimes our personal time suffers because we have to make time for that. Um, the other, there is a benefit in that we can choose when we want to work. So I'm very good at pulling myself away from the computer if I can, if it's a beautiful day, and spontaneously going out for a walk, getting some sunshine because I can. And I'm okay with working late or starting early as long as I'm affording myself the time that I need where that fits in. I do schedule certain things in that are non-negotiable, like my workouts. For me, that is really mind clearing and elevates my mood, so many things. So that's one of the things I prioritize. I do block off sometime on the weekends for my husband and I to make sure that we get out to eat or do something. Anytime there's a family event, I'll make sure I ask people way in advance, please let me know because I want to block it off, that kind of thing. But it's always a struggle, I think. You have to intentionalize it.
Do you have a lot of trouble with last minute family events?
No, luckily, I really don't because unfortunately, it's really sad for me to say I grew up in like a big Italian family and we have 6 kids and 4 are out of state. The other 2 are still young enough that they're doing their own thing and they're not necessarily seeking out time with mom and dad, they're in their mid to late 20s. So we don't have any really last minute things. And friends that we hang out with are pretty regularly scheduled, but very open to spontaneous. Hey, it's a great day, do you want to go have an outdoor meal? I'm happy to accommodate stuff like that. I used to be very rigid and that I wanted everything super organized. And sometimes I can sway too much to the other way. But I think it's really important to like live in the moment and enjoy. Remember why you're doing what you're doing. And it's to enjoy your life, have the best life possible. So don't like, you know, cut off your head to spite whatever. I don't know how that saying goes. Enjoy
Yeah.
what you're doing, have fun. Otherwise, why are you doing it?
So how does that work? Like if you have a call scheduled at a certain time?
I'll always take a call that's been pre-scheduled unless I know the person and there's no reason that we can't reschedule it. That would be an unusual circumstance. I'll always take something that I've committed to 99% of the time, unless there's really a good reason not to. Yeah, I'll work around what's on my schedule. There's always time, like I really try to move away from that scarcity lack mindset. There's plenty of time, there's plenty of money, there's plenty of people, there's plenty of love, plenty of everything. And so I just soak it in where and when I can.
I think that's a good attitude and a good
Yeah.
strategy for setting those time boundaries.
Well,
And as you pointed out, you do have it a little easier now that your kids are grown.
definitely there are people that are dealing with a lot more constraint than I am. So I'm really blessed. Yeah.
What benefits have you gotten from networking and how has it affected your business?
Oh my gosh, there's so many benefits from networking. I think the number one benefit is that I've grown as a person by expanding my perspective, the information that I have learned and gotten from other people, the confidence I've built up in relating to others, because when you reach out to people who are also of that mindset, you're in general, you're received very warmly and it's a positive reinforcement for the most part. If you're putting out good energy, it will come back. And so, it's just kind of further reinforced that I can do this, that I'm confident, that I'm capable, that I have a lot of value to offer because I see that in other people. um, I always say, like, I can't believe I'm almost 60 years old and I learn something new every day and I love it. And it's because I'm exposing myself to different people. I can't know it all. We all have excellent skill sets, different life experiences. And now with Zoom, right, I'm talking to people around the world on a regular basis. I think that it's such an honor for me to be able to, experience that one-on-one vicariously through a computer. It's incredible. So definitely growing myself, my knowledge base, my perspective is expanded. I've learned about a lot of things that I didn't know about. I've been able to help a lot of people that I wouldn't otherwise have helped. I've made some incredible friends through my business that I would have never otherwise known or ever met.
Yeah, it's really amazing to meet all those different people and be able to help different people and be able to learn about new things as well. I
Yeah.
think sometimes people think it's just about me getting in front of other audiences or just selling my thing. But it's also you learning and you becoming
Mhm.
aware of other products and other services and other things that help people.
Yeah, that's right. Because I can add value to their life by saying, well, you may not be interested in what I have, but I know somebody who's got something exactly like you're talking about and looking for. And then they look at me as a valuable asset. Wow, I met you and you pointed me in the right direction. So it's not always that we're providing, value in the specific direct service or product that we offer, but we can provide value in so many different ways.
What are your thoughts on tapping into your intuition when networking?
Um, I have learned to really tap into my intuition in general. The first significant time that I acted on it, I've been able to tap into it quite a bit as a young person growing up in my, 30s and 40s, but I always hesitated to act on it out of fear. And so when I left my corporate job without really having a plan was the first time I felt it in my gut and I took the step regardless. And that was really a pivotal point for me in my life. I've been able to take action with it, and it's okay for me to say, this doesn't feel right. I no longer feel guilt about that. It's okay. It's not a big deal. Like, I'm not for everybody. People that I meet may not be my cup of tea. That's okay. And I don't have to, in my mind, formulate that, oh, I'm offending somebody. I can say, wow, I love you. I love what you offer. It's not for me right now, maybe in the future. Like I can say that and feel good about it. So the intuition for me, I feel it in my gut. My stomach tightens up if it's uncomfortable. It's kind of like my body tells me first. And I think being able to act on it is the key. Like,
Yeah, I've definitely had that where I had the intuition. I knew what I should be doing and I wasn't listening. And I was actually at a master class a few weeks ago where they went into like some of the excuses. And for me, my biggest one was like chasing the success. Like, oh, this is a proven method for success. And I would listen to that and ignore my intuition, and it never worked out. So, yeah, it's not just the having it, it's listening.
that's right. Yeah. And it's really easy to make excuses. For me, it was a lot of times it was like weird, uncomfortable situations. My mind, my body, my intuition would tell me like to turn around and help a stranger. And that was really hard for me. That was a really hard one for me. Sometimes it would be homeless people on the side of the road. And I push through discomfort, like get out of my car and say, hey, I'm Alisa. How can I help you today? And that's not easy to do. And I just got so tired of ignoring it. And I said, if I continue to ignore it in these circumstances, I'm not going to be given that signal, right? If you continue to ignore something, you're either not going to recognize it anymore, it's going to feel so uncomfortable, or you're just not going to get it anymore. And I didn't want to give that up because it really is a gift.
Yeah, it really is. It's just sometimes people don't listen, and I've been in that boat as well. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
How about specifically when you're networking? How do you use it? Besides, I know you mentioned figuring out, okay, this product or service isn't for me,
Mhm.
which is super important because you can't buy everything anyway.
I know, I know. Um, I would say so much of it is unspoken. It's like an energy, right? Are you kind of on the same energy level as someone, maybe number one? Um, if something just feels right, it's hard to explain, right? You just have a knowing, you might not be able to articulate why. When I jumped into this company, I didn't know anybody. I wasn't introduced to it by someone I knew, liked, and trusted. I was online. I clicked on a link and everything in my being said, this is for you. Like you're aligned with this. And I just jumped in. Um, so I mean, I think our goal is to get to that point where we don't think too much about it, because I can overthink everything. And I really have learned to try to go with that first impression without being judgmental. Awareness, first impression. How does it feel?
Exactly. Any closing remarks or things that you wanted to add to this?
Um, I guess I would just like to encourage, like I'm a midlife woman who made a transition at the age of 55 with no real plan. And so many times we question ourselves, we come up with excuse after excuse, and I want my next chapter to be better than all of my other chapters. You know, I've had a great journey, but I've kind of come into my own, and I think many women do as we age. We get to the point where like, okay, you know, we're done trying to please everybody. It's time for us. We have poured all of our time and energy and love and support into our families or our career or something outside of ourselves. And I would just encourage midlife women to like take a look and ask themselves, what do they want next? And that it just takes that first step, you know, and that could be different for other women, for everybody. But I would love to have a conversation with anyone who's just feeling that if it's, you know, if I can't offer something that they're that looking for or that sits right with them, I can maybe refer them to something else or somebody else. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Anything
Thank
else?
you, Lori.
All right. I'm so glad to have had you.
Thank you.